Hey everybody, it's Corbett Barr from Think Traffic, and I'm having a chat today with Gary Arndt from Everything Everywhere. And Gary has a very popular travel blog, maybe one of the most popular travel blogs out there. And I wanted to sit down and pick Gary's brain today about what he has done to make his blog so popular and find out if he has any tips for other people that might be watching this. So, hey Gary, thanks for being on today.
Me?
Yeah. I was explaining earlier, I was chatting with a couple of friends, mutual friends of ours, Dan and Audrey from Uncornered Market. They're travel bloggers. And they mentioned that you have one of the most popular travel blogs out there. And you and I had chatted a little bit before, but I guess I didn't realize exactly how big your site was. Can you maybe just tease us with a little bit of stats? Tell us how long you've been blogging and about how many people are reading your blog.
I've been doing it about 5 years now, and on an average month, I will get about 100,000 visits and about 250,000 page views.
Yeah.
And but those aren't actually the numbers I care about. The raw web traffic is important, but the numbers I really care about are all on the front page of my site. So RSS subscribers, email subscribers, fans, followers. I think that's really where it is, because traffic at some level is always ephemeral, right? You get a big spike from StumbleUpon or something like that, and you feel wonderful, and then it's gone. And then you got to do it again and again. But if you can convert people, then it just keeps building and building. And
Right.
I think knowing traffic is like who saw your stuff in the past. Your audience is who's going to see the next thing you post.
Yeah,
And
that's a great way to put it.
Is really kind of what I focus on.
Cool. So you started 5 years ago. Maybe just tell us a little bit about what you were doing before and why you got into blogging. Why did you start a travel blog?
I started an internet company back in 1994. I had just gone out of college, and I had a friend that started what became a very popular web development tool called Cold Fusion. J.J. Allaire, the guy that wrote it, was my college roommate. And as he was doing it, his brother, Jeremy Allaire, who's now the CEO of Bright Cove, was like, Gary, yeah, we got these people that want to, make a website, and you should do it, because they didn't want to do it. They wanted to work on the tool. So I was like, okay. And so we got some customers, and then we got some more work, and I got one of my friends to help me, and he had a friend. And 4 years later, we had 50 people in the firm, and I sold it. And I did some other web things. We took some people. We started a business intelligence software company that I was an investor in. Did a network of gaming websites that was doing about 50 million page views a month, I think, at its peak. And then I was like, well, what do you want to do with your life? And I like traveling. When I sold my company, I actually conned the company that bought it to send me around the world to go talk to their offices about the internet. It was like a 3-week whirlwind tour. And this is before there were things called a blog. I just had a personal website that I'd been running since like 1997, and I created a little website for this trip. And I would post, I had like a 2-megapixel Kodak camera that was really expensive. And we didn't call it a blog then, it was just a website. And during the trip, I would post some things and write some entries, and I guess that was my first travel blog.
Wow, and what year was this?
That would have been 1999.
Oh, wow, okay, that is before blogging existed,
Yeah.
for sure. And then, so you said you decided, you asked, what do I want to do with my life, and what led to deciding to travel? Because you've been traveling full time now for the past 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah, 4.5 years now. I had done a lot of businesses. Nothing was inspiring me as far as what to start. I was living in Minnesota, and I thought the business community there really sucked. And the idea just came on me to sell my house and travel for a year. And that became 2 years, and then 3, and then 4. And then what happened, and the way the blog got started, I thought I started out like everyone else. I thought, I'll throw some, ads on my blog, and it'll pay for the trip. And that didn't happen. I was 9 months into my trip, and I was in Hong Kong. And having had success online before, or on the internet with other things, I knew what success was. And I could probably give you the first names of everyone that was reading my website. It was friends and family. And I just said, okay, either I need to change what I'm doing and take this seriously, or I should stop doing it because it's a waste of my time. So I went to a newsstand in Hong Kong, and I bought every travel magazine I could. And I opened up a spreadsheet on my computer, And I did an analysis of why were people buying these magazines? And I found that the average magazine, from editorial content in an issue, would mention 40 countries per issue. Nobody goes to 40 countries in a year, probably in their lifetime. I noticed that most of the content wasn't text, it was photos. And that the reason people get these magazines is the same reason kids had the Sears catalog at Christmas, right? You'd spend hours looking at the race cars and all this stuff, and it was a fantasy. So that was when I began realizing, okay, I need to take my photography a little bit more seriously because people like photos. They're easy to digest. And I started putting up a photo every single day. And I've been doing that now almost 4 years. Putting up a brand new photo on my website. It's simple for people to digest. They look at it, boom, they're done. And they can say, oh, it's beautiful, it's nice. And basically just continued down that path of trying to inspire people without hitting them over the head.
I was wondering, do you post photographs only from where you currently are, or do you go back and find older photographs to sort of, people mentioned 40 countries within a month on their magazine.
I always go back because if you go to the front page of my website, you'll see I have 7 photos of my last week of photos. And I always try to have a different continent or a different region of the world represented in that mix. So it's never where I am right now. So I just got back from the Galapagos Island a few days ago, and so I still haven't edited those photos. So those will start appearing, I'm hoping, in a week or two maybe.
How many countries have you visited?
Depending on how you count it, if you look at the list on my website, it's 103 now, I think.
Do you have aspirations to visit every country in the world?
Yeah, eventually, but I'm in no rush. Just going to a country and saying I've been there isn't really what I want to do. I want to explore it and see things. And I'm far more interested in one of the projects I'm working on is a long-term project to document UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And there's 936 of them in the world, and I've been to 155. So that's a much more ambitious task.
That'll keep you busy for a while. It sounds like you're not planning to stop traveling anytime soon.
No, this has become a business for me. Once I suppose I described the first thing when I was in Hong Kong, where I said, okay, I'm going to take this seriously as a blog. And it was a lot of reflection about, because there's a lot of places like ProBlogger and a lot of people that have advice. And what the niche that they're in is very different than travel, I realized, because there are some people that are very passionate about a subject, right? If you're a blogger, you want to learn everything about it. And so you're going to be very passionate about subscribing and, who subscribes, who uses RSS, tech-savvy people. But if it looks like that, you walk down the street and ask people who Chris Brogan is, or, no one knows because not many people care about internet marketing, but a lot of people care about travel. But it's not something that they're necessarily going to comment on and they're passionate about. So it's a very different kind of way people follow. I find that they're much more passive, and the audience isn't necessarily as technically sophisticated as what you're going to find the average blogger is, just by the very nature of the fact that they're blogging and online. So that was one of the things. And the other big difference is there is a very large travel industry that exists, a $1 trillion industry. And so a lot of my time isn't just dealing with the blog stuff. I have an assistant who basically her job is to deal with the travel industry. So domestic destination marketing organizations, PR firms, airlines, companies, places like that, that's a very big part of what I do in existing within that business or within the industry. And that's something that a lot of people that talk generally about blogging would not know the specifics of for something like travel.
Yeah, I know I've talked with a lot of travel bloggers, and they seem to be sort of frustrated with their options for monetizing their blog because, like you said, it's a little bit different than the business market or the blogging market or something like that. You mentioned that this has become a business for you. Do you mind if I ask how you're monetizing your blog at this point?
I'm only just starting to monetize it. I've really held off, and the reason is because I didn't need to. I had a house that I sold. I had a business that I sold. I was able to travel and not have to worry about making money. And I wanted to do it right, which meant I wanted to get a good audience first and then make money. So I've got a really good book agent, Stephen Hanselman. He's the same guy that reps Tim Ferriss and Owen Malik. And we're working on our book right now. coming out with some iPod with an iPhone application by the end of this month. Well, I may be doing some ebooks, but I'm not going to do the e-junkie route. They're going to be books that are going to be on like Amazon or the iBook store. So I've kind of avoided the seminar ebook route that a lot of bloggers do because I wanted to kind of do a more mainstream way of monetizing. But I think that's a much more difficult approach and it's taken more time.
Mm-hmm. Sure. What do you think about the future of the travel blogging industry? It seems like it's probably one of the most common types of blogs that people start, right? And I noticed on your site you have a list of travel blogs, some of your favorites, and then you have a long list of things that you call travel logs, which essentially are just people chronicling their trips, right?
Well, the problem with a lot of travel blogs is people go on a trip, they talk about what they did, and then their trip is done, and then they abandon the blog. So, one key to success is to just not quit. I mean, literally, that's a huge part of the success. And I think one reason I've been successful is because I started before everyone else, and I have an internet background. So I think I maybe was a bit more savvy about where to go as far as to get traffic. I had more contacts that were outside of the travel and tourism industry, and that probably helped me. But I think it's because we have to work within a greater industry. And travel media has existed. I mean, there's a travel channel, there are travel magazines, there are giant sections of travel bookstores, there are travel sections of almost every major paper in the world. So in dealing with mindshare, when someone wants advice on going to Australia, they're going to think, oh, I got to go get the Lonely Planet. Or, oh, I'm going to go to TripAdvisor. There are these enormous media properties that exist that kind of suck up all the oxygen with travel media. And so travel blogs, I think, have had a much harder time getting traction than in something like internet marketing. There's no television channel. There's no, newspapers devoted to it. Blogs are the top of the media heap as far as that industry is concerned. So the biggest thing for us is going to be continue to get more recognition, legitimacy in the travel industry, and just keep growing our audience.
Do you think potentially that the challenge of only having one or two authors on a blog is something that most travel bloggers won't be able to overcome? Because as you said, in order to compete with some of those bigger properties, you really have to have an organization behind you. You have to have a lot of writers perhaps that are covering different places and different topics. How can an individual get around that aside from maybe involving other authors?
There are some sites. Matador is a good one. Boots and All. They've been around a while, and they have a lot of authors, and you can write for them. They will pay maybe anywhere from $20 to $40 for an article. But there's an area where I can beat National Geographic, and that is I'm a person, right? I have a face, I have a personality, I have opinions. And National Geographic and these large organizations don't. Who represents National Geographic? Who represents Travel and Leisure? They have different authors every issue. Editors come and go. It's a corporation. It's a big business. And I can out-personalize them. I can out-personalize them in spades. I can do meetups. I have never met a travel writer, a traditional travel writer, that has had dinner with one of their readers or had drinks with them. I do it all the time. I will meet people. I'm coming through their town on their right and say, hey, Gary, you're coming through. We should meet up. It's just natural for me. And because people have a different relationship with bloggers. You know who the person is that runs most of. If you looked at your RSS reader, I bet you could probably name most of the people that run the blogs you listen to, regardless of what niche they're in. And as a result, people have a more personal attachment. They're more likely to ask questions, send an email, and I think that's how we can win. And I shouldn't say win. That's how we can create our own niche. The goal isn't necessarily to become a property as large as National Geographic. They have a century and $100 million on me that I don't have. But I think I can create a very good property for myself by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you where you are right now, by the way?
Oh, can you hear the thunder?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Quito, Ecuador.
Okay.
And tomorrow I leave to go to New Zealand.
Cool. So, wow, that's going to be quite a trip.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
That's the unfun part of travel, right? The actual travel.
Yeah, the actual transportation part I don't really enjoy, but you got to do it.
So I wanted to ask you about your content strategy. How often do you post on your blog, first of all?
I am trying, well, the photos I post every day. And one of the reasons I went for a daily photo is because it's very easy for me to do. Once the photos are edited and done, all I have to do is just go pick an old one and put it up, and that's what I do every day. But as far as like longer form content that I write, I try to do posts. So one of those may be a podcast that I do. I host This Week in Travel with Chris Christensen and Jen Leo. But the hardest thing I think I have to do is time management just because of traveling. If you think of a lot of bloggers, if they go on vacation, they'll put up a post that says, I'm going on vacation, so the blog's on hiatus for a week, or we'll do guest posts this week. But I'm on vacation all the time. And so that's very difficult for me to get work done, because I'll go and I'll spend a day seeing things and taking photos and eating, and then I get back to my hotel and I'm exhausted, and then I don't write anything. So that's the one thing that really has been difficult for me, especially this year, because this year has been very hectic. I've been to over 20 countries this year.
You mentioned the photography as being a big part of your blog. I think I read on your blog that when you started traveling just 4 or 5 years ago, you basically knew nothing about photography other than you aim and click a button.
Yeah, I didn't know a damn thing. I bought a camera that was way over my head, and I just was honest enough to recognize when I took a bad photo, and then I figured out why the next good photo. And I eventually learned to edit photos and do post-processing, and I'm still improving. And I meet people, some readers sometimes, and they're almost embarrassed to say it. They say, "Oh, Gary, your photography has really improved." And they almost don't want to say it because it implies, well, it used to suck. Well, it did suck. It's fine. I thank you. But yeah, it's something I'm always working on.
That's to sort of relate back to the fact that you said one way that we can compete or create our own niche in travel blogging or anything having to do with blogging is the fact that you're a real person. And I think that, that story of evolution and improvement and personal development over time is something that people probably read your blog for. And that's the kind of thing that you would never see at, like you said, any of the major magazines. They're all so polished that they seem sort of manufactured in some ways.
The metaphor I always use is the difference between movies and television. Movies are high production operations, and they're coming out with one thing, and that thing has to be perfect, and they're going to spend a lot of money to do it. And television and movie actors always have looked down on television actors and superior thing, and they want people to pay for it. Blogs are more like television. The goal is not necessarily to create a 2-hour blockbuster. You have cheaper production costs, it's on a set, and the goal is to get people to tune in next week. That's what you want, right? And that's where I think like subscribers and whatnot are people, you want them to tune in next week because there's always going to be something else. And you're not necessarily, I've had people say, well, editors are always improve your writing, and they get into the details, and they're right about that 100%. But the thing is, to do those things costs a lot of money. Now, I don't know of any blogger that hires a full-time editor. Would it improve their content? Probably, but is it worth the cost of hiring someone? Probably not.
Yeah. So thinking about moving on from your content strategy, you mentioned earlier that you had some ideas about how to get the word out and how to find different traffic sources and things. Tell me about your promotional strategy, both as it was maybe within your first year and what it looks like today.
I didn't have any of the first year. That was very simple. I was just traveling and not worrying about it. The biggest mistake people in travel make, and I think in every niche, is that they don't get out of their niche. The low-hanging fruit are other bloggers in your niche. And I see so many travel bloggers where you look at the comments on their site and it's all other bloggers. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you limit yourself to that, there is an enormous universe of people in the world that want to travel. And I think that you need to go to where those people are and get out of your niche. So I will occasionally do guest posts on other travel sites, but I have a thing now where I post for the Atlantic, and they launched a lifestyle section. So I will republish some of my blogs there. I'm talking to another big kind of a politics news website about doing some posting for them. Places that aren't necessarily travel per se, because I found most of my audience, no one goes looking for a guy like me. They don't search, oh, let me find a guy who's traveling around the world. They just stumble across me by accident. They say, oh, that's cool. And then that's how they start following.
I know you've been really active on social media. I think I saw you have like 100,000 followers on Twitter or something. And am I correct? Did it say that you had tweeted like 30,000 times or something?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
So that's obviously part of your promotional strategy there as well. Can you talk about social media and how you've used it?
Yeah, it's all about being a person. So like on my Facebook fan page, I've made 2 posts today. The first is how I was watching the Packer game in a restaurant, in an Argentinian restaurant in Quito with a Cuban waiter. And I explained to him the rules of American football. And I just always have these examples where you're in like, a Chinese restaurant in Italy and an African guy comes in and you start talking in Spanish.
Right.
Crazy things like that. Or I explain, how tomorrow is going to be an absolutely hellish day for me traveling. Just simple things like that people can relate to. And then you just say, well, what's the worst travel experience you've had? And people say, oh, I had to go from Bangkok to Tokyo to Honolulu to Seattle to San Francisco. So I think you're not going to hear from big media players.
Yeah, it's all about having a conversation, isn't it? With having a big conversation with a lot of people and trying to engage people and not just necessarily just being pushy about your content. How do you fit that in? How do you fit the promotional aspects of telling people about your content versus the conversational aspects?
You just put it in. Say, hey, here's a photo I took. One of the things, if you follow my Twitter feed, is that 3 times a day I have a photo from 1 year, 2 year, and 3 years ago. That was my daily photo. And I just, here's an image of this mountain. And that's just part of the feed. And it's just sharing these images I had. And it drives traffic. And I think people understand it if you're honest about it, not trying to be. You can tell the difference if someone is, I don't know, being kind of smarmy about how they're promoting themselves and just being upfront about it.
Mm-hmm. How do you point often to other pieces of content out there? Do you write and link to other people's content from within your blog? Do you curate other content?
What I started doing is every Monday I sort of just have a catch-all post that I'm doing right now, cool things I found online, whether it's travel related or not, links to other, Dan and Audrey is a good example. They have they do this 360 virtual image every week that they do from different places, and it's really cool. And I've linked to them many different times. That's the like that travel blog directory you said I have on my site. I just started doing that for the hell of it a couple years ago. It's now linked to it on the New York Times on every page of the Frugal Traveler section.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you want SEO and link juice and stuff like that, it turned out to be really good, but I never intended it.
Yeah.
And I've had people come up to me at conferences and shook my hand, and I didn't know who they were, and they say, "Thank you, you're my #1 referral source for traffic." I was like, "Really? Wow, thanks."
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like they have to create every piece of content that goes on their blog, and it all has to be unique and invented. Whereas, if you look back at how the web was created, like Yahoo, for example, one of the most popular properties on the web in the early days, it was simply a directory of links to other stuff that was going on online. And it feels like a lot of us have sort of forgotten about the value of discovery and curation and showing people where interesting things are.
One thing that I am very adamant about is I always use my own photography on my site. Unless it's a guest post, I'm very, very fussy and anal about that. And I was at the New York Times Travel Show last year, and I was listening to this panel, and they were talking about new media, and someone mentioned my website. He said, and Gary always uses his own photography, and I think that I've kind of used it as a point of pride. And the other thing with travel is, despite the name of my website, I have not been everywhere. So I get people who ask me travel questions. They say, I'm going to go to India. What should I see? What should I do? And I know other bloggers who just focus on, say, India, or they just focus on Mexico. And I will always refer people to the bloggers that I think are the experts in that field. And you can really, bring that down to individual cities, not just at the country level. And I'm kind of a generalist. I go all over. I see a lot of things. But if you really want to know something about a destination, I may not be the best person for that. In fact, I'm almost certainly not.
That's an interesting point. I think, I wanted to ask you as well, though, about the value of meeting people in person, because you can make a lot of friends by sending referrals, like you said, because maybe somebody knows more than you do. But what about meeting people in person? I know that you attend like the Travel Bloggers Conference, for example. Do you get a lot of value out of that?
Yes. Well, I'm going to be at Blog World. I was there last 2 years, speaking again this year. I go to I've been to several travel conferences this year. When you can meet your readers, and here's a great story. One of my best friends is Scott Kurtz, and he has a huge website. He's a web cartoonist, like 11 million visits a month. Monstrous. I am a accounting error compared to how popular he is. And we had a joint meetup once for his readers and my readers. And about the same number showed up, oddly enough. But the difference was his readers just wanted to talk to him and hear him talk. And my readers came and they asked me about my travel, and then they told me about their travel stories because they have them too, and they're just as good as mine. Mine aren't. I've been to many places, but that doesn't mean they're any more valid than someone else's. And everyone has a travel story. So when you meet people in person, I think it really cements that loyalty. They will tell you about people through word of mouth. There are still people on Twitter that I've met. A guy in Kuwait who took me out for dinner. A guy in Oman that I met. A woman I met on the boat from Japan to South Korea, and I still talk to these people. And I think that's one of the great parts of what I do.
Yeah, it's one of those intangibles that people don't necessarily think about. They think about starting a blog because maybe because it's a creative outlet or because they want to create a business around it. But those friendships and connections that you make are really where the true value is when you look back.
On a related point, in terms of monetizing, I don't think of myself as monetizing my blog. I'm monetizing me. I am more than my blog. It's a big part of it, don't get me wrong. But it's not just the page views. That I can bring to a sponsor that they can't necessarily get from going with a large company. And I think bloggers should think more in terms of people investing in them, not just investing in their site.
So, Gary, if you were talking to someone who was, say 3 or 6 months into blogging, whether it be travel blogging or any kind of blogging, and maybe they're struggling a little bit to figure out how to attract an audience, what are the few critical things that you would advise them to take a look at?
Don't quit. That's number one. The days of the early mover advantage is gone. And a lot of the big blogs that people know of started 5-6 years ago when it was a lot easier. And that just doesn't exist anymore. So you have to be willing to do this for 2 or 3 years before maybe you see any traction. And you don't know what form your big break is going to come. I was doing it for 2.5 years, and then that led to a whole cascade of opportunities for me. And I couldn't have planned that. It just kind of happened. The second thing is people who try to monetize too quickly. You don't monetize a blog unless you're going to sell links. You monetize your audience. So building your audience is the most important thing. And I meet people that's like, oh, we're 6 months into this. How do I start making money? Well, you can start making money, but I think your best bet is to not try to make money and focus on building your audience and building a community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I've seen people do that, and you can sort of shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, there's a balance as well. I think some people wait too long, but you always just have to have your audience's best intentions in mind. And when you try to start selling something simply because you want to make money and not necessarily because whatever you're trying to make money from would help your audience, then that's, I think, where you get yourself into trouble.
And with respect to travel, and this applies to other niches too, the longer I've been traveling, the more authority I think I've developed. When I was, just starting my trip, I would tell people, yeah, I'm going around the world. Well, that's great. When I said, I've been traveling around the world for 2 years, people go, oh, wow, that's impressive. And I think there's an amount of expertise and authority you have to get by just slugging it out. And you can't just be, snap your fingers and be an authority. And there are some people, J.D. Roth is a good example with Get Rich Slowly, and Adam Baker. they started out, it's like, boy, I have a first personal finance problem. And they kind of publicly said, how can I solve this problem online? Here's my journey through this. And as a result, they became experts, and they were able to develop an audience as they were doing it.
Mm-hmm. And solve their finance problem.
Yeah.
3 birds with 1 stone. Gary, well, thanks so much for being on today. I know people are going to get a lot from this. And if they want to find you, they can go to everythingeverywhere.com.
Everything-everywhere. Because non-dash version is a phone company in the United Kingdom. So
everything-everywhere.com. And on Twitter, you are Everywhere Trip, correct?
Right.
Great.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for being on, and thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right.